there's a conversation you need to have. You've been putting it off for weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. You know it needs to happen. You've rehearsed it in your head 100 times. But when that moment comes, you find a reason to wait. It's not the right time. They're stressed. I'm stressed. Maybe it's next week. Meanwhile, the relationship slowly dies from lack of real connection. My name is Raju Panjwani, and today I want to talk about why we avoid conversations that matter the most and how to finally have them. Does the hard conversation you want to have keep getting postponed? The performance issue with your top employee that you've been dancing around for 6 months? Perhaps the misalignment with your business partner or a family member that you keep smoothing over? Perhaps the distance between you and your spouse that you both pretend doesn't exist? These aren't small things, my friend. They are the most important conversations in your life. And they're the ones we're most likely to avoid. So why do we avoid them? I know what this feels like. For years, I avoided hard conversations with my father, for instance, because I was terrified of the conflict. I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of making things worse. Fear of what I might discover about the relationship with him or others, or about myself. So I would convince myself that I was being patient, being strategic, waiting for the right time. No one should have to live with this weight, the stress of what's not being said, the exhaustions of pretending that everything's okay when it's not. When you avoid hard conversations, 3 things happen. 1, the relationships start falling apart gradually. And then suddenly, you think everything's fine, and then one day, it's poof, too late. 2, resentment builds over time. You're angry at them for not reading your mind, angry at yourself for not speaking up or speaking the truth. And then thirdly, in steps, your trust with them erodes. When you're not being real with someone, they can feel it even if they aren't able to name it. Here's a simple framework. Are you approaching them or are you avoiding them? Approach, avoid. Approaching means you being fully present, addressing issues directly, creating some depth in this relationship. Avoiding, on the other hand, means you're doing the opposite. Bare minimum, dancing around issues, keeping things comfortable, not ruffling feathers, as they say. You can be married to someone and still be avoiding real connection with them. You can work with someone every day and never have a real conversation or a connection. So think about 2, 3, 4 people in your life who matter most to you. And for each relationship, where is it now and where you want it to be? That gap is not caused by the other person. It's caused by the conversations you're not having. So what's really going on and what's in that gap? It's fear of rejection, it's fear of conflict, or fear of being vulnerable at some level. But here's the thing. The relationship you want is on the other side of that conversation that you're avoiding. So I love frameworks. So here's a 3-part framework. It's actually in my book, Bold Conscious Leadership. And I give the door analogy. So the 3 parts are broken down into part 1 is preparing to open that door. Part 2 is the conversation itself inside the room. And thirdly, it's the commitment to depth. So there's a 3-part framework to having these conversations and making them work. In my book, Bold Conscious Leadership, I give an analogy of a door, a closed door, and then what that means. So part 1, preparing to open the door. Before the conversation, 3 things matter. First, you get really clear on what you actually want. Not to win an argument, not being right, but what do you want this relationship to become? Second, you check your energy. Are you going in with this clenched fists ready to fight, or with an open heart ready to connect? And third, you need to know your triggers. What might they say that will set you off? Prepare yourself to stay centered even if they push those buttons. Part 2, it's the conversation itself. See, hard conversations have a rhythm. There are 5 elements that make them work. First, listen to actually understand, not just to formulate your response. Truly listen. 2, ask open questions, such as, help me understand, ... Not, what did you, why did you? So open questions are, help me understand. 3, acknowledge their perspective. You don't have to agree, but you just have to show that you are able to listen to them and hear them. 4, you share what you're actually feeling. Not just your judgments about what they did wrong, but actually feeling. Share what you're feeling. Finally, you should know when to pause. If you're triggered and can't stay centered, pause with agreement to continue. You would say something like, I just need a few minutes. Let's come back to this in 20 minutes. Something to pause with an agreement to continue. Moving on to part 3, hard conversations rarely resolve everything in one conversation. It's not one sitting and then everything's resolved. No. What matters is the commitment to keep going, to not avoid, but to work forward to depth instead of settling for the surface. The conversation you're afraid to have might be exactly what saves the relationship. Now, you might argue, hey, listen, the other person never wants to have this conversation. I can be committed, they're not committed. You're already putting the cart before the horse. I am saying go through the process and test this out. It's not going to be one conversation, but just be prepared to have another one and then perhaps even another one. Very important. Every successful business partnership, for example, that I've seen has one thing in common: the ability to have that hard conversation. Every strong marriage is the same thing. They don't avoid, they go deep. Trust me, I've been there. Your willingness to have the hard conversations is what determines the quality of that very moment. Your willingness to have the hard conversations determines the quality of every important relationship in your life. Remember what people actually need. They need these 3 things. 1, to be seen and heard and really listened to, not just waiting for your turn to talk. 2, you contribute meaningfully, to know their perspective matters and it adds value. And thirdly, alignment between their values and actions, to feel like the relationship lets them be who they actually are. Alignment between their values and actions, to feel like the relationship lets them be who they actually are. When you approach hard conversations keeping these things in mind, everything shifts. We avoid hard conversations because we're afraid of what we might lose. But what you're actually losing is the relationship itself, slowly, through avoidance and surface connection. The people in your life deserve much more than your edited, safe version. They deserve the real you, having real conversations and creating real connection. All right, so let's bring this down to practice. 3 steps again. Number 1, identify 3 to 5 people. Hopefully there's not more than that, where you'd like to have a deeper connection. And for each one, write down, are you approaching or avoiding this relationship? And what's the gap between where it is and where you want it to be? And then what conversations are you avoiding that would close that gap? 2, do that energy check I mentioned earlier. Just this 1 week, just pick one person, okay, or a situation that triggers you, and ask yourself, what outcome do I actually want? Am I bringing the right energy. Is it fight energy or is it connection energy? What might trigger me and how will I handle it? 3, have the one hard conversation this week. Not the hardest one. Just pick one that matters, but it's not the most loaded for you. Schedule it, put it on your calendar, and then have it with full presence and open heart. Listen, avoiding hard conversations feels safe, but it's not. It's slowly killing your most important relationships. Real connection requires courage. Courage to be vulnerable, to risk the conflict, if there is, and to speak the truth. But on the other side of all that, the other side of courage, is the depth of the relationship you actually want. Listen, it won't get any worse. It can only get better. The relationships that matter most deserve more than your surface conversation with them. And if you want help developing the courage to connect more deeply, DM me and we can talk about what's really bothering you. Until then, have one hard conversation, my friend. Just one, and see what changes. This is Raju. Stay bold and stay conscious. Take care.